Led by a traditional pipe band, veterans of Australia's campaigns in Southeast Asia marched to Newcastle's Civic Park. Brigadier Arthur Rofe, a veteran of 3 wars, unveiled the plaque, which he described as a fitting if somewhat overdue tribute.
For a long while, the people who served in Korea and Malaya and Borneo, and of course Vietnam, tended to be a little bit ignored by the general public in Australia. Not they didn't appreciate it, but they just didn't know.
Many laid wreaths to commemorate friends who didn't make it back and prayed the nation would never again be called to war.
Of all those old soldiers you saw there today, there wouldn't be one who'd ever want another war. Every man who's ever been mixed up in them says no more.
The 3 salvage consultants will join the 11 crew members to survey the seabed in the area the jet went down.
The equipment we're using here is a towed sonar. We put a sonar over the side, lower it to a level just above the seabed and proceed very slowly up a line, and the sonar looks at the bottom for anything that's out of the ordinary, essentially.
The search will continue until the wreckage is located and clues to the reason for the crash can be pieced together. The ship will pull out of port early tomorrow and should reach the crash site at around 9 o'clock. Almost immediately the vessel will begin to sweep the area in straight lines, moving at a speed of around 3 knots. It will be a slow process, and the ship's captain, Lieutenant Mark Hill, says it's unlikely the ship will make it back before Christmas, but he's hopeful the search will be over within 5 weeks. He's appealing to anyone with information that might help in the search.
I'd stress that any information from the public in terms of wreckage they might find on the beach or anything they might spot at sea, if they're a fisherman, for example, should be reported to the Air Force immediately.
Three good engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. Liftoff of the Space Shuttle Columbia and Astro 1 for an insight into the lifestyle of the galaxies.
The shuttle is carrying ultraviolet telescopes, which scientists say will give them a new picture of the universe. It's scheduled to return in 10 days. And blasting off from the Soviet Union, 2 cosmonauts and a Japanese television reporter. His company paid more than $14 million for the privilege of putting the first journalist in space. An excited commentator on the ground sent news back to Japan as pictures came down from the cameras on board. The Soviet cosmonauts are being paid to take the pictures.
Hunter Valley metal industry workers are holding mass meetings to consider an agreement hammered out with the Metal Trades Industry Association. Today's meeting at Comsteel followed the trend set nationwide, with union members overwhelmingly endorsing the package.
That's right, put this as a recommendation from the negotiating committee. All in favour, raise your right hand. Against? Declare it carried unanimously.
The agreement provides tax cuts of around $10 from January 1, a $12 wage rise by May, a minimum 1% superannuation increase, and a 4.5% productivity profitability component based on award restructuring principles.
Well, this is the basis of the national wage case, is this agreement, and they're pursuing that now, but we have the ability now to have had negotiated this one first.
The metal trades agreement will now be referred by employers to the national wage case in late December. Leslie Robinson, NBN News.
There's no denying Hillsborough Primary is a green school. Its landscape yards are bursting with trees, shrubs, flowers and lawns, to the extent that Lake Macquarie Mayor Ivan Welsh almost had to take on the role of a jungle gym when he arrived to present the school with its 2 Keep Australia Beautiful Environmental Awards. The State and Metropolitan Awards were in recognition of the school's awareness of just how important care of the environment is, in particular the students' enthusiasm. Lake Macquarie Council nominated Hillsborough Primary after it won its Tidy Schools Award in 1989. When the Keep Australia Beautiful judges visited the school several months ago, they admitted they were amazed by the children's willingness to participate in the cleaning and greening of the school. The school's litter rangers ensure every last scrap of rubbish is placed in bins, while these special paper picker-uppers make the normal chore of litter duty loads of fun. As well, the children are involved in gardening, watering and planting, along with establishing their own compost heap.
Errors in the valuation sent to the Maitland Council late last year meant that rates set for 1990 were based on incorrect figures.
A valuation of $6,500,000, when in actual fact it should have been $65,000, which affected the rate in the dollar.
Each year the Department of Local Government sets a maximum increase for council rates. This year Maitland rates rose by 3.84% based on the incorrect valuations. They could have increased by 7.3%. Next year there will be a solid 10.1% increase to cover the 1990 shortfall. That means the average Maitland resident paying $500 in rates will next year pay an extra $50.
With what we've done last night, actually, at our budget meeting, means in actual fact that our rating over the 2 years, that's 1990 and 1991, will be no more than most councils.
A survey of people in the street suggests the average ratepayer accepts the increase as a fact of life.
Well, if I've got problems with my budget at home, you've got to find ways around it. They've got to find ways around their budget, and I suppose that's what they have to do. Good luck to them if they can get it.
Well, I think it's a little bit hard on the average person.
Costs are going up, what else can we do? We're not in favour of it, of course, but there's very little we can do if we want the services.
I don't agree with it because I think we pay enough as it is, but if they ask for it, I don't see there's much we can do about it.
With next October named as the completion date for the 5,000-seat centre, time will be of the essence. The 91 show will finish on March 2nd. Bulldozers are expected to move in just 3 days later to clear the site on the southeastern corner of the grounds. Therefore, to make the task of selecting the builder that much easier, the Showground Trust has narrowed the field down to just 7 from originally 33, 6 of those locals, the 7th from Hong Kong. The large dome-shaped structure will be home to all Newcastle's major sporting and entertainment events, which up till now have had to be housed in huge tents or outdoors. At a luncheon at the showground today, Trust Chairman Jim McGeechy revealed he could almost begin taking bookings now.
Michael Edges has written me a lovely letter saying it's about time. Kevin Jacobson has done the same thing. The head of the exhibition side, their top body, has said thank God Newcastle's did it for years.
Also at that luncheon, State Tourism Minister Gary West, here for a tour of the city's sporting and tourism facilities. His trip was highlighted by the announcement of a $50,000 grant for the Newcastle Velodrome. Badly in need of repair, the Velodrome Trust had been seeking $78,000, but Mr West said finding the balance would have to be up to them. He also revealed such grants are to be a thing of the past for his government, with groups now having to settle for loans. The state government's revitalisation of Newcastle centres on the redevelopment of the Honeysuckle Goods Yard. The government has yet to decide whether to sell or lease the 28-hectare site, and to help them in their task, an advisory board has been established. Joining Chairman David Lamarchant is Lord Mayor John McNaughton, Hunter Economic Development Chairman David Boyd, Member for Newcastle George Keegan, Manager of Tomago Aluminium Smelter Barry Goldstiver, Paul Chaston of the Property Services Group, and Peter Barrick of Newcastle Trades Hall.
The importance that we see this site as being a focal point for the redevelopment of Newcastle, leading on, we hope, to both national and international interest in Newcastle for future investment.
Mr Hannaford refused to elaborate on that investment. However, ideas being canvassed include inner city living and tourism. A number of heritage-listed buildings will be maintained. The government has allocated $1.5 million to clear the site, and a management plan should be completed by early next year. Jodie McKay for NBN News.
It's hard to miss. The ochre-coloured steel, cement and fiberglass construction is 5 storeys high and encloses a 24-hour roadhouse and small shopping centre at Leyland Brothers World. The Leylands, renowned for their adventure films, have tried to bring home something more of their travels.
Well, we wanted to build Ayers Rock because I think it's all Australian. Anybody thinks of Australia, they think of Ayers Rock. So, and Ayers Rock has also been a magnet to us right from the very beginning. Our first trip was to Ayers Rock in 1961.
Visitors can cross Sydney Harbour Bridge and board a cane train tour of part of the 40-hectare property. There is a man-made lake, a playground and bush retreat. A permanent tent camp can house excursion groups of up to 140 people. A TV studio and museum puts visitors in touch with the craft that made the Leylands famous, as well as their films Wheels Across the Wilderness and Down the Darling, which helped send a nation bush. They've invested a lifetime in the project and are determined to make it work.
When we went across the desert in 1966, you shouldn't be doing that, it's the wrong time. When we did our trip around the coast, you shouldn't be doing that, it's the wrong time. The winds have blown the wrong way, everything was wrong, but they're still saying it, so I don't know, I guess if they start approving of what we're doing, we might start to get worried.
Another attraction is to climb Ayers Rock. This is a 1 in 40 scale model, and from up here you get a bird's eye view of Leyland Brothers World. The park employs 60 people, and other features soon to open include a bush truck ride and an Aboriginal Dreamtime display. This is Andrew Lobb reporting from Ayers Rock for NBN News.
Only a quick response by the Hunter Water Board averted an ecological disaster in October when about 5,000 litres of contaminated diesel fuel spilled into Throsby Creek from railway yards at Broadmeadow. State Rail claimed the oil had spilled from a ruptured pipeline, and repair crews reacted quickly as soon as the leak was reported. But already thousands of litres had flooded into the city's storm water system and were making their way to the harbour. The Maritime Services Board provided oil booms to catch most of the slick before it left the creek. But the Water Board was already considering legal action against State Rail. This afternoon, Environment Minister Tim Moore gave the nod, overturning existing government policy established in 1959 which prevents one government body prosecuting another.
It appears to have been an accident, but that doesn't mean that the department shouldn't be prosecuted. Exactly the same rules should apply to government departments as apply to private enterprise. If it had been a private company, they would be prosecuted for this sort of incident, and that's what's happening with the State Rail Authority.
The Minister's decision will set a precedent affecting all state government agencies, a move welcomed by Water Board Director Paul Broad.
Makes us much more accountable for how we interact with the environment. And this sort of policy change will not only apply to the environment, it will apply to a whole range of activities that we get involved in. And if we break the law, we'll be charged like anyone else.
It could be up to 8 months before the matter is heard in the Supreme Court. If the decision goes against State Rail, it could be fined a maximum of $40,000. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
Surf lifesaving may be fast becoming a high-profile sport, but the number of actual lifesavers is dwindling.
In Newcastle branch we are not losing members at the present time, but it is a trend throughout Australia for numbers to be dwindling, so we want to take the initiative now, start to recruit members, and that's what today was all about.
To rectify the problem, the Newcastle Association has launched a campaign designed to attract more young people to the movement. It glamorises the art of life-saving like never before, and that's exactly the idea.
Particularly the younger people of today's community are more conscious of other things that they can do. They're a bit hesitant to involve themselves in things which is going to involve community service, such as serving on patrols on beaches and that sort of thing. But we want to let them know that there is a great deal of excitement in the surf lifesaving community, and that's what we're trying to stress today.
More good news is the fact that Newcastle will host next year's Trans-Tasman Test. The Kiwis will take on our own Bronzed Aussies on February the 2nd, and you'll be able to catch all the action live on NBN.
Again, the Hunter Valley has produced some outstanding sporting performances in 1990, and no fewer than 41 men and women received quarter-final nominations. A short time ago in the NBN boardroom, the judges announced who would take part in the gala telecast on January the 19th. Rachel McQuillan has had a brilliant year, being named in Australia's Federation Cup side and making the quarter-finals of the Australian Open Championships at the National Tennis Centre. Chris Lawrence, the defending Sports Star of the Year, is once again a finalist after successfully retaining his World Mistral Sailboard title and winning a stack of other championships. Guy Waters continues the family tradition by scooting up the world boxing rankings and defending his Commonwealth light heavyweight crown. Todd Wilshire set the Speedway world on fire by running third in the World Solo Championship and also being named the British Rider of the Year, a rare feat for an Australian. Mark Sargent, after a brilliant season with the Newcastle Knights, gained selection on the Kangaroo Tour, and his form warranted his inclusion as a reserve for the last 4 Test matches on the tour. Mark Curry was in devastating form during the last cricket season, being named the Australian Country Cricketer of the Year and being included in the New South Wales Sheffield Shield squad. Stuart Deering continued a family tradition by being picked to represent his country at hockey and has now firmly established himself as the best goalkeeper in Australia. He also helped Western Suburbs to win this year's premiership. Robert Thompson rattles up records with regularity, and again he was chosen to represent Australia at an international fixture, and back home rode in excess of 150 winners around the country, plus 6 winners on the one program at Newcastle. Greg Hayman went to the Commonwealth Games in Auckland, hell-bent on proving his gold medal in Edinburgh was no fluke, and the plucky weightlifter from Stockton returned home with 1 silver and 2 bronze. Donna Proctor was also in the medals at the Games, and against one of the hottest fields seen at the Games swim meet for some years, Donna managed to win a bronze medal. Vicky Roycroft from Mount White continued to amaze with a stunning performance at the World Show Jumping Championships in Stockholm, where she finished in the top 10 and was the leading woman rider at the event. And finally, Sally Griffiths was named the Player of the Carnival at the Australian Interstate Cricket Championships, and with the national team taking on the Kiwis, scored a barnstorming 133 in the second test. The winner of the NBN St George Building Society Sports Star of the Year will be announced on January the 19th.